Alhamdulillah, nahmaduhu wa nusalli ala rasulih al-kareem, amma ba'd, a'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem, bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Inshallah, I just want to put forward a case for the Madrasah, and this is about the fact that our Madaaris as well as Masaajid have been closed down due to the lockdown. But I think we need to consider the weight behind the need for opening the Madaaris as much as the Masaajid, inshallah. So this is just a brief overview. There are more in-depth treatments we can do for this, but I just want to give something short and to the point, inshallah, as much as possible, just to get people to start to think, inshallah, specifically the Ulamaa amongst us who their concern has been the Madrasah for most of their lives, alhamdulillah. So I'd like to discuss today, inshallah. First, I'm going to give a short reminder from the Quran. I'm going to look at what's happened following the lockdown, the immediate situation. Then the current situation that we find ourselves in over the last few months now. And a brief look at the current government rulings and the new task force that they have defined. And then we're going to have a look at some DFE guidance as well. All of this obviously in relation to the Madrasah, not so much so the Masjid. This, I want to stress right now, this program is about the Madrasah, not so much the Masjid. And finally, I want to just state some conclusions at the end of this. So, beginning with the Quran, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وإذ قال ربك للملائكة إني جاعل في الأرض خليفة صدق الله العظيم. When your Lord Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said to the angels, I am appointing someone as my deputy on earth. This is known Islamically as Khalifa. So how does that impact what we're talking about today? There's a reminder to us that we have the responsibility on earth to lead in and solve the problems that the community may face. So when I say the community, not just the Muslim community, but the human community that we find ourselves surrounded by, whatever situations there are, it is for the believers to take the lead on that. That is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us to do. The current situation is one faced not by a single community, however, but the whole global community. So again, it's down to the believers now who should guide the community through their trials. And so we need to think about that. We need to think about ourselves and what our roles should be. We're not in a position to sit back. We're not in a position to be observers. We need to be involved. We need to be at the forefront, inshallah. And the Masjid and the Madrasah are the bastions of the Muslim community run by the Ulamaa. And we need to be very mindful of that. The bastions of the Muslim community, they are our defenses. They are our forefront. We need them. And right now, we have a situation that concerns them. So this is the lockdown that is worldwide. And the impact of that lockdown, we need to consider what that impact is. First of all, the voices of young children reciting Quran in Madaaris have stopped. The recitation of Quran in Madaaris hifz classes to memorize the book of Allah ta-aalaa has stopped. The free flow of students to and from Madaaris on a daily basis practically has stopped. Lessons of Deen in the Madaaris, a daily occurrence, have stopped. We need to ask the question, what is the spiritual impact of the cessation of all this activity, not just in the community, not just in one area, not just in one country, but worldwide? What is the spiritual impact of the cessation of all that tilawah of Quran, the dars, the lessons of hadith, the Quran, the teaching and learning? What is the impact, the spiritual impact of the cessation of all this activity? I'm going to leave that for everybody to consider. So the current situation is that as a result of the coronavirus pandemic, Masaajid and Madaaris have been closed. Asatizah, the teachers, have been left without their normal means of imparting their knowledge to their students. And students have been left in turn without their Asatizah and without their Deeni ta'aleem. In some cases, Asatizah themselves have been left without income to see to their needs. In some places around the world, this is all they ever did. It's all they ever knew. Madaaris have been left without funding to continue as a premise. Even the Masaajid housing the Madaaris are themselves in financial need, which further increases the plight of the Madrasah, which is housed within the premises. The impact on students of hifz is unfathomable. I mean, hifz is something that needs to be done every day, regular. The door, the hifz, the sabak, the sabki, manzil, and that had come to a stop. And where there are efforts to be continued online, it's not the same. Children have been left without dini hidayah, and they are at home right now resorting to worldly distractions, games, and so on. The barakah of dini ta'lim has been lifted from both ustad, ustada, and the students. The daily hum of children reciting Quran throughout the land has been silenced. The suhbah of ustad, ustada has been replaced in many youth with the company of gangs. Where there is any effort on the part of Asatidha, it is now by distance using electronic means, which does not hold the same level of tarbiyah for the students. Many children prayed salah during madrasa hours. In many cases, this was their only chance to do so. That's also come to an end. In effect, all forms of benefit from a madrasa as it was have been removed. Masaajid may open now on the 4th of July in a limited sense, although the government has also allowed on the 15th of June, for some limited opening as well. There is no mention of Madaaris though, which means they remain closed indefinitely until further notice, which may run from weeks to months going forward. A national task force has been set up by the government to manage the opening of Masaajid. Despite schools opening, Madaaris is still not mentioned. As for the new task force, it's been set up by the Ministry of Housing, Communities and Local Government as an advisory group. They are not a decision-making body. All decisions are made by SAGE, the scientific advising community to the government, and Downing Street itself. The Madrasah supplementary out-of-school settings is not part of their remit and is not being considered at the moment. The review date of 4th of July is not an opening date for mosques, they state. It's at the earliest date. It may well be delayed if there is an increase in infections as a result of stage 1 or stage 2 of relaxation. Don't forget, opening of Masaajid is stage 3. In terms of the DFE guidance statement, they state, in addition, out-of-school settings tend to be key community hubs of social interaction similar to places such as community and youth centres, indoor leisure facilities and places of worship which are still required by law to remain closed. They also state that the government's current planning assumption is that assumptions to the current measures for these types of premises will take place no earlier than 4th of July, subject to the government's 5 tests for lifting restrictions being met, and further detailed scientific advice provided close to the time. In line with this, we do not anticipate, they say, out-of-school settings being able to welcome back children at the same pace as schools expand their attendance. Out-of-school settings should therefore be continuing to keep their premises closed to the public for the time being. So, looking at these statements one by one, the first statement they make, this definition is incorrect. As we know, our Madaaris lessons are held with complete respect and focus on teaching. So this is completely incorrect and it needs to be corrected. Parents, visitors, etc. are not allowed into the sessions during the madrasa hours. As for the planning assumption, this easing will be for Masaajid. There's still no mention of Madaaris in all the guidelines published so far about the Masaajid. In the third paragraph, in terms of out-of-school settings, if the Madaaris are seen incorrectly as key community hubs of social interaction, then this delay is an unnecessary waste of time for the ta'lim of our children. In effect, we need to challenge the definition. In terms of the task force, I did ask about the madrasa setting and I received the following replies. Although the task force agreed that yes, this is a topic that needs to be discussed for exactly the reasons you've said, I was informed that there was a need to find out if maktabs are within the terms of reference for the task force. The resulting conclusion was that they are not including supplementary schools in their deliberations, and I was referred to the recent guidelines from the Department of Education, which I've already discussed. In conclusion, the madrasa is not even being discussed at government level. So I'll talk a little bit about the reminder from the Quran, following the lockdown, the current situation we're in, and the current government rulings. I've defined the new task force, the DFE guidance statement, and the conclusion coming from that. What we need to do now is to think about what we are going to do going forward with respect to the madrasa. We need to appeal for the madrasa to be open, as we have done for the masjid. And the madrasa is actually, in fact, more important than the masjid because our community, our people, our children, our youth, our elderly, everybody is in need of education about our deen, especially in the current situation and the current society that we find ourselves worldwide. There is more need for Islam and the proper understanding of Islam than ever before. If people are interested in this and want to know more about this and what I'm trying to do and what anybody else may have ideas about doing, then alhamdulillah, I'm happy to discuss this with people. Ustad Abdul Latif, that's myself. My email is there. You're welcome to email me and we can take it from there, inshallah. Jazakallah khairan for your attention to this, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.